76ers. 10, 9, 8, 76ers.
What's going on, everyone? This is UK 76ers. My name is Ben Glasspool, and despite only running on 4 hours sleep, I woke up this morning feeling fine, sorry to quote Herman's Hermits, because the Philadelphia 76ers beat the Boston Celtics last night by 109 points to 117. Now, it'll be easy to say, I was most pleased about this game because of Embiid hitting 42 points with 10 rebounds. It'll be easy to say we won this game because, we had some amazing defense at times because Tobias Harris stepped up. The list goes on. But for me, what I'm most pleased about is the turnovers, or the lack thereof. We only had 9 turnovers. And whilst, that might still sound a tad excessive, what we've done in the past, or the past few games, is it's been more towards 20 turnovers and maybe even more, and that was what really pleased me today because unfortunately in other games turnovers means points. In this game, sure, they got a few points off said turnovers, but if you reduce the number of turnovers, you reduce the number of points. It's as simple as that. Now look, this was a depleted Boston Celtics team. We know that. No Jason Tatum, and look, we don't like to admit Tatum's good, but Tatum is very, very good. He's a very good player. He brings it on both ends, and it would have been a whole different ball game had he been playing. But you can only play the team that's in front of you, and the team that was put in front of us was still a pretty solid team. Not the best depth in the world. Have they got someone to guard Joel? No, but they've got likes of Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, who on their day can punish us. And to be fair, all three of those guys did punish us in their own rights, but we just had more. It's as simple as that. We just had more, a deeper roster, and better individuals, i.e. Joel Embiid. So look, the Boston Celtics can feel aggrieved about various things and feel a bit annoyed that they didn't have their best team out. But at the end of the day, I'm not too bothered. We won against the Celtics, and a win against the Celtics is never a bad thing. They've upset us too much over the past few years, and any time we can get a one-up on them is good enough for me. So the same issues did rear their ugly head in terms of Ben Simmons again having another scoreless first quarter. Perhaps he had a few field goal attempts which sort of showed him that he can be aggressive, and look, if they don't drop, they don't drop. But at least he's getting them. He did only have 5 field goal attempts, which I wasn't happy with. But one thing I will say about him is actually there's a couple of things. I think for me, he had a good game. Look, we didn't quite get what we wanted, but he had a good game. And I'll tell you what, free throw attempts. Now, there's a lot of things that need addressing with Ben Simmons' game. We know this. We can list them. You've seen on Twitter. You just have to be on Sixers Twitter to know the issues that pertain to Ben Simmons currently. But free throws has always been a big thing, getting to the line and converting at the line. He had 10 free throw attempts and made 7 of them. Now, normally he's a 50 to 60% shooter from the free throw line, if I'm correct. Making 7 out of 10, that's pretty solid. And the fact that he's getting to the line. Look, if he can't get his points from field goal attempts, if he can get to the line, that's great. Because one of these days, he'll combine the 2 of them, get to the line, whilst also getting points from the field. So, that's just great news for us. In the fourth quarter, his defense switched on, and this is a luxury we often take for granted. And I was thinking about this the other day when we're looking at, potential Ben Simmons trades, because people often jump the gun, and I'm not in the camp to trade him currently. I was towards the end when Harden was still available, but now that he's not, let's pump the brakes on this whole talk, because let's not forget how good Ben Simmons is. And we have a luxury which we do take for granted, and that is we can go into any game against any team in this league and be like, well, that guy on the opposition is very good, but we can always put Ben Simmons on him. And that is the beauty of Ben Simmons. You can put him on just about anyone in this league. So, for example, tonight, the Boston Celtics had Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker, and look, they did have good games in their own right, but it's always nice to know we can always put Ben Simmons on them, who 9 times out of 10 is keeping them to a below average game or making them shoot an inefficient total. That is the beauty of Ben Simmons. And if we traded him for, say we traded him for Bradley Beal, say we traded him for Zach LaVine, or say we did get Harden, that is a luxury that would soon miss very quickly. Just having that guy that we can put on their best player and say, he's going to lock them down. And I thought Ben Simmons had a really good day defensively. Look, we know what we want from him offensively, but there was at least some positives, i.e. getting to the free throw line. And we just got to hope that he gets out of this rut. And, I said it in my last video, I believe. I recall last season it came to the point where people were so frustrated with Ben Simmons that they're like, "Oh, he shouldn't make the All-Star team to prove a point, so he has to realize he needs to do more." And then towards the end of the season, he was really good. And look, that's not excusing how poor he's been. He's been poor, but things can change in an instant in the NBA. We've seen this before. We've seen it with so many different players, not just on the Sixers, but just throughout the NBA and all 30 teams. People go through dips in form and then they end up peaking through a lot of games. And I do think this isn't Ben Simmons as he is for the rest of the season. He will improve, in my opinion, and it won't be monumental improvements in terms of 3-point shooting or mid-range shooting. It'll just be the Ben Simmons that gets 17 to 18 points a night with also being a triple-double threat. That's all we want. In addition to this, when he's off the court, you notice how difficult it is for us to create opportunities to score. It is palpable how bad it is, and that's just another thing we do take for granted. And look, yeah, there are playmakers who could fill that void, i.e., James Harden. But the people are claiming we should be trading for right now, with Ben Simmons in that trade package, you're going to be missing an awful lot of playmaking, and he does it. He gets double teamed a lot. There's an awful lot of gravity to the guy, and that means, you can trust Ben Simmons to find that open guy a lot of the times because he is that good of a passer, that good of a facilitator. So you're going to have to take that into account if you're looking to call, if you're calling for him to be traded. And I do understand these calls, but let's not just trade him for anyone. Let's make sure we know what we're doing because he can still be a useful piece of this team. And I think today, like I said, there are a lot of frustrations with his offensive game, but I do still think he had a good game overall. So we just got to keep going with it. So let's start off with that first quarter. We finished the first quarter 32 points to 25. Like I said, Ben Simmons didn't get any points. Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris combined for 23. And they were electric from the start. Embiid, especially from start to finish, was great. Tobias started well and finished well in between, a bit quiet, but he got a quiet 22 points in true Tobias fashion. He puts up numbers and you look at the box going like, how on earth did he get 22 points? But that's just what he does. He just goes about his business and does so well. So, he had a good game. Embiid was always going to have his way. The thing about the Celtics is they have good wing defenders, but they have no one that can defend Embiid, as I alluded to before. Tristan Thompson, 6'9" center. Daniel Tice, 6'9" center. Grant Williams can play the five occasionally. Again, he's quite small, quite inexperienced. Not a bad player by any means, but just no one that can properly guard Embiid. And it showed. And, despite being swept in last year's playoffs, he did average 30, and that was because no one can properly match him down low for the Celtics. So he got cooking straight away, and he just didn't seem to stop. It was, mid-range shots. He had a 1 3-pointer, 1 long two, which looked like a 3, but was later reverted back to a 2. Going to the line, he had 21 free throw attempts and made 17 of them. This is unprecedented from a big man. You think of the best big men to ever play the game. You think of Shaq, you think of Wilt, Bill Russell, Kareem, Hakeem, Bill Walton, whoever. None of these people have a free throw percentage quite like Joel's, and it's so fantastic to know that whenever he gets his fouls, he will convert and he will, make them pay from the free throw line. And you compare it with someone like Dwight Howard, and look, he's not in the same ballpark as Embiid is currently, but Dwight Howard's a really good, dominant big man and was back in his day. But you notice that he's a 54% free throw shooter, and it is the Memphis game shows that can really punish you if you can't convert your free throws. But Embiid will make them pay, and it is just fantastic to have. That first quarter, Furkan Korkmaz, we saw Furkan Korkmaz return. Look, he had that highlight play, that reverse dunk, which it was incredible to see, and he made one three-pointer. But I still think Isaiah Joe should be in this rotation over him. Look, Furkan is still a bit of a black hole on defense. He wasn't terrible on defense by any means last night, but I still would rather give those minutes to Isaiah Joe because he can improve more. So I already think Isaiah Joe is better on D. And I think Isaiah Joe's 3-point shots need to be a lot more consistent than Furkan. Maybe it's just a purple patch for Isaiah Joe, but Furkan hasn't been knocking him down too much. Look, he hasn't played too much this season, so perhaps I'm being a bit harsh. But Isaiah Joe, I think, would feel very hard done by. And I know a couple of people were saying, oh, well, why doesn't he get Matisse's minutes? And look, Matisse offensively wasn't, again, brilliant. But defensively, he had 4 steals and a block, he had more steals than the Boston Celtics, and he played, bench minutes. So you're looking at 15 to 20 minutes, I believe. I don't quite know the official numbers, but he's not playing crazy amount of minutes. And there's a testament to the fact that, we didn't turn it over to allow Boston to get those steals, but there's also a testament to just how good Matisse Thybulle is on defense. And again, look, if the right trade comes on and you have to include Matisse in it, so be it. But people are so impatient with the guy. You've got someone who's unbelievably good at defense. Like he's going to be making first team all defense in his future, and he could even get defensive player of the year in the future. And if he could just get a consistent three, then that is such a weapon to have. And people want to just throw him away and say like he's done. Sometimes he is okay from three. Sometimes he isn't. Look, tonight was not one of those days. But you still got to persist with the guy. You still got to appreciate what he's doing on that defensive end. People look at his box score and say, "Oh, he wasn't good," but I'm sure there are metrics out there which can tell us how many points he saved us, how many points he saved us from conceding, and just how good he was. He had another good game on Kemba. Look, Kemba still got his because Kemba is a very good player. But Matisse did a very good job on Kemba Walker. And so, look, we know what we want from an offense. It's similar to the Ben Simmons predicament in the sense we know what we want from offense, but at least night in, night out, they'll bring it defensively. But so Matisse, I thought the fans were a bit hard on him, but I think he had a good game. And I think people, when they get quite level-headed, they'll realize, look, he had a good game. We know what he needs to work on, and it's very not simple by any means, but it's just working on those shot mechanics and making sure that when those threes are wide open, you're making them at a decent clip, at the very least 35%, and just work your way up season after season to a point where it's nearing that 40% mark. And then we've got one of the best 3-and-D wings in the league. It's as simple as that. The first quarter, like I said, outscored them by 7 points. Second one, we were bailed out simply because they got the Celtics got in the penalty very early on. I think towards the end of that second quarter, towards the end of the half, the last 5 minutes, we only made one field goal, and that was right at the end of the second quarter. Thankfully, like I said, we lived at the line seemingly. And there's also a combination of Embiid, but it's also a combination of the fact that they got in foul trouble very early on. Kemba Walker was torching us. He was 4 or 5 from 3. This was before the half. He was on a minutes restriction, thankfully for us. This game could have been completely different as Kemba was playing, your 30 to 35 minutes, perhaps more, which I imagine they would have demanded of him, but bearing in mind there is no Jason Tatum. But the pick and roll defense is something that's still annoying me, and I've talked about it so many times before. People go around the pick, and they just get what they want. They can go to the lane, they can get that 3 up, or they get fouled. And I'm not sure, again, there must be some stat out there which can tell me if I'm right or wrong on this. But whenever teams go around the pick and then we foul them in the act of shooting because they abruptly stop, and I hate these fouls. I think it's just annoying. Are they fouls? Yes, by the laws, but I just think it's really just bad basketball in a way you don't want to see that. It's not a proper foul. What's that defender supposed to do? But that's not up to me. That's up to the NBA to sort that out. But the amount of times, we seemingly fouled on 3-point attempts from people just stopping on a dime, and then we run around the pick and crash into them. But it's a frustrating one, but it's something we need to deal with. And guards in the pick and roll, nippy guards, you're looking at, your Kembas, your Trey Youngs, and whoever else, they seem to always have a field day against us because they use the pick and roll well, and we can't seem to defend it properly. And that just needs work. It's been here since Brett Brown. I'm not pinning this on Brett Brown, because if it's still here, it's not a Brett Brown issue. It's a collective issue. It's an organizational issue that we need to address. And we need to do so quickly, because there are a lot of good guards in this league. As we know, it's a guard-driven league. So when the likes of Steph Curry come to town, we're going to play him once in Philly and then once in the Bay Area. But, you could end up, if you think of the guards, there's Kyrie, of course. There's James Harden, of course, who lives at the line practically. You're going to have to be clever and wise up to these. Otherwise, you're going to get punished, and you're going to end up in foul trouble, and you're going to give away cheap points because you haven't quite mastered how to defend a pick and roll, which should be, your bread and butter in the NBA. But, we just about hung on. We were outscored 36-26, so 10 points, and the half we finished 3 points down. Bearing in mind, at the half, the Celtics were shooting from 50% from 3, and bearing in mind how dire that second quarter really was, you'd take being 3 points down, because you always felt the Sixers would get back into it, and eventually we did. It was a bit nervy towards the tail end. Well, when I say the tail end, the start of the fourth, but we really carried it home and got to the point where it wasn't too bad for us towards those closing stages. Now we enter that third quarter, and again it was still a bit worrisome. The refs were letting the Celtics get what they wanted, because they do a lot of flopping. Every team flops, because if I have that same energy accusing the Celtics of flopping, I'm probably going to have to accuse Embiid of it, because the thing is, a guy that's 7'2" in his weight and his strength didn't fall to the ground so easily, but that's how you win fouls, unfortunately. So I can't be too hypocritical on that front. Ironically, after the game, Marcus Smart did accuse Embiid of flopping and failing, and you can have that energy, but you got to appreciate that you do exactly the same thing. I don't know anyone as bad as good as Marcus Smart. Look, I really don't like Marcus Smart, but you got to respect he's a very, very good player. Defensively, he's just fantastic, and he always seems to just go off against us on the offensive end, he hit some crazy shots. Last night, thankfully, it was to no avail because, well, of course, we did win. Tice had a few flops here and there, but he's always complaining about just about anything. But we just need to wise up a bit. But flopping's just part of the game, and you're gonna have to do it and do it well. You see Kyle Lowry, he's a master of it, and you hate it when it's against you, but when it's happening for you, you don't say a word. But that's just the nature of the NBA, and that's the nature of supporting a team, isn't it? Celtics seemingly got what they want, and this has been an issue that's presented itself a lot. And I do think it's a lot to do with the fact that when Simmons is off the floor, we've really struggled to get looks. So the Celtics, and this is also an issue with our defense, they can get to the line pretty easily. They can get to the rim, be it a lot of time through pick and rolls, or they can get those three wide open threes. We didn't seem to contest threes. If they're on the 3-point line, no one's rushing out to chase them off it or to try and block it or try and contest it. They're just like, oh, did get there on time, let him have it. And that's really frustrating me. I remember Peyton Pritchard had one in that second half. It's like, who's going to close out? Look, you don't want to give away a needless foul, but you also, you can't just let him have it because the Celtics never gave us that luxury. So why on earth should we give them the same luxury? So that needs working on. Perimeter defense sometimes just really does lack. And again, it seems to be you can flick a switch to the Sixers with how good our defense is. It can either be elite, one of the best in the NBA, or it can be poor and unbelievably porous, and anyone can get that what they want. And the Memphis Grizzlies went for a period where they could get whatever they wanted, and I do think a lot of it derives from the fact that we can't seem to end up pick and roll well, which easily creates options for a team to lob it or to get the three or to go to the line or to go to the rim. So that needs work, but it's also just making sure you're locked in the whole game through, because it's easy to switch off in that third quarter. Because it's not the fourth quarter where everything matters, or it's not the first when you just want to set a trend. That's a period where people would like to lull, and you can't let that happen. We didn't really get good shots, but we got bailed out again because we get going to the line. And funny enough, there was a brief period when Furkan and one with that, like I alluded to before, that reverse dunk was fantastic. It's such a highlight play, but I still don't think he should have those minutes, as I alluded to before. But that was fun. That was a booster that really got the morale going, and you need plays like those to really get your team back to where they should be. Well, again, we're outscored in that third by 3 points, 31-28, go into the fourth, 6 points down, 92-86. And now it just sort of goes to show what I know or what I don't know. That the fourth quarter started, and it was 6 points down, obviously, and it was Milton, it was Howard, it was Korkmaz, Matisse, I want to say Maxi. Basically, it was the second, the benched team. No starters on the field. And I was like, this could go really badly, because if Boston's to go on a run, they go on a 6-0 run, then all of a sudden we're 12 points down, and then the starters are going to have to really chase this game. But credit to this bench unit. At the start of the fourth, they took it to the C's, and by the time the starters came in, we were 100-97 up, I believe. I want to say that, and that was all because of the bench unit. And that's exactly what you want. All you want to do is it's almost like a relay. You pass the baton over. The bench unit passes the baton over to the likes of Embiid, to the likes of Simmons, to say, "We've got you this far. Go finish the game. Go win us this race. Go win us this game." And that's exactly what they did. And like I said, I was going to be very critical of it, but if it works, it works. I'm still not entirely sold on this idea of starting the fourth when you need those points. You need to play catch up a bit to trust these guys. But why can't you trust them if they deliver? So, all credit to them. I thought they did exceptionally well. Dwight Howard was a bundle of energy off the bench again. On the offensive boards, he was a menace, as he so often is. Gets to the line a couple times when he took this one free throw, which was extremely far back, even by his standards. But, his free throw percentage is what it is. It's not going to change overnight, and it's not going to drastically improve. But no, he was fantastic. 7 points, 10 rebounds, and all you can ask from a backup center. Just be a bundle of energy. So yeah, second string team did very well for us. One thing on the offensive side, again, there seems to be a lack of willingness to penetrate. Tyrese normally does it. It wasn't quite his game today. That's just one of those things. He'll keep learning. He'll keep getting there. But when the lane was open, I noticed there was a reluctancy from Shake to go for it. I think he was guarded by Shemi Ojale, who's not a bad defender by any means, but you back Shake. But with how he's been finishing at the rim with both hands, go for it. Look, we know what Simmons should be doing in terms of driving. He didn't quite do it. But Harris, I thought, was very good. And there were some times where he took it to like Daniel Tice. He had a really nice and one going over Daniel Tice. And Tobias has been fantastic. We know that all season, and this is just what we want from the guy. 22 points. Is he worth the contract? No, but is he at least doing stuff good for this team, shooting an efficient 22? Absolutely. He's been one of the best players of the season for us. Obviously, the best being Embiid. Danny Green, 4 from 8 from 3, 12.6 rebounds. All you can ask. I mean, all his shots seem to exclusively come from the 3-point line, and that's all you need. Just solid defense. A wise old head on that field to ensure that we're going in the right direction. Obviously, 3 rings, 3 different teams, playing under some of the best coaches, playing with some of the best players. He's a very good guy to have around the team. He's only taking shots on the flow of the offense, not forcing anything out, just corner 3, corner 3, corner 3. And he was making shots 4 from 8, 50% from 3, tidy. I'm hoping we can have Seth Curry back for the next game. I have a feeling we will. It looked for all the world that he would return in this game, but didn't quite make it in time. But I do fancy us to get him back for the next game. The next game was ironically against the Celtics yet again. Defense was solid in that final quarter, and I alluded to Ben Simmons being fantastic. Of course, Joel Embiid is Joel Embiid. Thibault had a good few minutes in the fourth, and that's what got us to the line. It was that defense, it was that intensity, and we took it to Kemba Walker. We realized he was the man that was hot for them, and if we could shut him down, then the Celtics would really struggle. And I mean, the thing is, before this game started, there were 3 people you had to worry about. That was Marcus Smart, that was Kemba Walker, and that was Jaylen Brown. And it did frustrate me how sometimes we didn't seem to give them the respect they deserved on the defensive end. We just sort of let them get what they want. And for me, it's baffling because all you've got to do is shut these guys down. And that's easier said than done, I know. But at least restrict them. Don't let them get ahead of themselves. Don't let them get the hot hand. Don't let them get form, which we let Kemba Walker get at the start of the first half. If we don't let them get these things, then we should win this game because there is no Tatum. And there's that bench depth that we alluded to with the Celtics is not quite all there. But annoyingly, we sort of let them get what they want. But, defensively, we figured it out in the fourth, and that's all that matters. We finished the game 109 points to 117. We play the C's again on Saturday. The early hours of Saturday. It'll be Friday evening in the UK. I can't wait to go again. Hopefully, Seth Curry is back. We're all missing him, I know, and he really, really improves this team. I mean, the impact without him has been very, very noticeable, and we just great to get him back on the floor. Hopefully Isaiah Joe gets more minutes than Furkan Korkmaz, and we'll see you all Friday evening / early morning Saturday. Bye now, guys.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.